coming up with the actual final fight of the prelims, we have Steve Erceg coming up against Alessandro Costa. I was completely mistaken on the last fight being the final prelim. This is the final one, and I am beyond excited for this fight. Steve Erceg looking to make it 2-0 in the UFC, and I'll get into how he did that in a second. But he's coming up against Alessandro Costa, who 1-1 in the UFC, getting knocked out by Amir Albazi happens. But then dominating Jimmy Flick, making him pretty much submit to calf kicks before ground and pounding him to finish that fight off. But a dominant performance for him in his second fight. And it's a tale of two different fighters here with Erceg, the Aussie, coming in on short notice to a pay-per-view in the Nunes Aldana card back in June. And he fought a ranked David Dvorak on short notice and outpaced a guy who's known for his pace, and then knocked him down, almost finished him. And at one point, he landed a right hook to wobble him, went with a head kick that knocked him down, and then almost cinched in a guillotine to finish the fight, but ended up winning by unanimous decision in that fight. An unbelievably impressive performance. And funnily enough, in that fight, David Dvorak was supposed to fight Matt Schnell, who ended up canceling right before, and that's why Steve Erceg stepped in. In this fight, Steve Erceg was supposed to fight Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell just called out of the fight. Now we've got Alessandro Costa on short notice. MMA math tells me Alessandro Costa is going to win by unanimous decision. So if you want to put on the tinfoil hats there, you want to put on the craziness, you could say Alessandro Costa by decision. I don't even know what the odds are right now. I'll look it up. But should be a fantastic fight. Andy, what are your thoughts? I'll get a little more into the style after you talk a little bit about your side.
Yeah, so Erceg now sits at a minus 185 to minus 190 favorite on most books after being minus 158 just last night. People are starting to see this fight and side with Erceg very quickly, and I can't blame them. I feel like the forward pressure that he offers, as well as the solid grappling and jiu-jitsu, is going to be huge for him against Costa. I know Costa has that Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt and a solid ground game, but I do think that I like that what Erceg has offered in his stint, like in his fights, rather than what Costa has offered with his resume thus far. And I feel like I keep referring to the resumes a lot with this card, but it is something that I tend to lean on when it comes to experience and stuff like that. And I hinted at that a few previews ago that I am leaning with a bit more of the experience that I like on this card as a whole. Costa, you may remember him from the Joe Pyfer Dana White Contender Series card, where he was on that episode 1 of last season for Dana White Contender Series, where nobody got a contract except for Joe Pyfer. That is where the famous quote was born. He did not impress enough Dana White to get that UFC contract. He is here now in the UFC. Again, like Rick said, the Albazi piece, the Flick piece. I'm not super thrilled about the Flick piece. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not something that's like jumps off the screen to me. I'm not a huge Jimmy Flick guy myself, where I do love how crazy Erceg is. I think that he's going to be absolutely nuts in the cage, and I'm excited to see him go off on Costa on short notice. I feel like for a short notice fight like this, we are getting pretty good odds, even with them climbing up to minus 190. I really like Erceg here in a parlay leg.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Erceg side. I mean, it would be an absolute, it would be a lock, hammer, whatever you want to call it for me. If he didn't, and if he hasn't gotten dropped multiple times on the regional scene, which he has. And that's my concern with him a little bit. But otherwise, I mean, he is a gigantic flyweight. Flyweight, 125 pounds. He's 5'9", which you don't see very often. I mean, Costa's 5'4", and the reach advantage, pulling it up real quick, is only an inch and a half, but he's the much larger fighter, and that's going to come into play when it comes to grappling a little bit. And he really uses it to his advantage. And it's that forward pressure that you mentioned that I think is going to be the difference here. But Costa's got power, and he is fast. I mean, obviously, most flyweights are going to be pretty fast. I mean, he's pretty damn near the top as far as speed goes. My issue for Costa is going to be that he likes to flurry to be able to close the distance, given his size. And against a guy like Erceg, who's taller, I don't know if that's best for him. I think Erceg could probably land an uppercut, something around the back of the ear, and might be able to drop him from there. And then Erceg has got the ability, despite just one knockout to his name, to be able to drop him and then submit him, which we all know he can do. So this is, as I said, I mean, this is one of my favorite fights of a fantastically stacked fight card. But I've got Erceg here. If you're going to lock him in now. It's continuing to grow. Yeah, I've got Erceg. Erceg is my pick. At the moment, I don't have anything tied to it. Maybe later in the card, I'll end up having something with him. And so both of us going with Erceg here in this fight. Neither of us making an official bet. Andy's got him in a parlay leg, possibly later as well. But we will see you back for the main card with Pat Sabatini and Diego Lopez kicking it off in Madison Square Garden. We'll see you there.